When I see young designers' portfolio, I notice most of them fake their design process in their case studies. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? So when I say fake, I mean adding or manipulating steps into the design process to make it look ideal, right? So for example, maybe someone has not made a persona or a user journey when they were building a particular feature of an app, but still when they write about it in their portfolio, they will fake it and show in the design process that they built the persona and they have worked on the user journey. And sometimes even the persona comes out of nowhere because there is no research or no assumptions mentioned before. That's a cue for recruiters to find out that okay, maybe this person is faking the persona here, right? The other example is reverse engineering a process, which is, let's say, maybe it took someone 5 days to create a website that was built by complete gut feeling and inspirations from Behance, right? Yet when they start presenting it in their portfolio, they will make it a 2-month project, and they do that by adding fake research and insights that support their assumption and decision that they had taken on day one of the design, which is simply reverse engineering research insights to match the assumptions and then make up surveys and interview answers to generate those insights, right? So essentially just creating a design process that never existed. So basically something out of nowhere they create, and this is something which is a red flag for every candidate who applies for a design job. But then some people are extremely good at faking processes and they get away. But most people are not that good. And as recruiters, when I look at very ideal design process, I stop taking the portfolio seriously. And by the way, this is prevalent in both personal projects and projects done in companies. Especially candidates coming out of companies that do not have very mature design culture baked into their product development process. And I feel the core reason for this is this idea of celebrating this ideal design process, right? When we type in design thinking into Google, we get this 5-stepper, 7-stepper process of designing. And most young designers think that this is the only way to design. And this is the design process that recruiters respect. Anything other than this is probably not deserving of any form of respect, right? So the idea is completely wrong. Design process is a sequence of logical steps taken to get more clarity over time. And we do that until we have enough clarity to now make something tangible and ship it. Then if it doesn't sell as planned, we retry with better information, right? So the central idea is to incrementally get clarity over time, and all of this process or sequence of steps is customized as per the context. This is something that most people are forgetting today, that the design thinking steps are a guideline. We should understand the fundamentals behind it, but work it as per our context. It's not a law that needs to be followed all the time. There is no one single design process which is the most ideal one. There are just infinite contextual design processes. Because if you think of the term design thinking, it was probably coined very recently, right? Before that, human beings have been solving problems and making tools to make our life easy. Now, the term design may not have existed back then, but this process of solving problems by seeking clarity and iterating solutions as per the resources and constraints available to us have been there since Stone Age, right? So the fundamentals will always remain the same, and we need to learn the fundamentals and then contextualize it for our context. Okay, now you might ask, fine, so there are no standard steps and sequence in a design process, but then what should we talk about in our portfolio, right? Well, to put it in the most simple answer, you talk about truth in your portfolio. You talk about all the constraints that you face that led to the end product. Let's say the product team prioritized shipping fast and they didn't let you do research. Talk about it. Or let's say you didn't get time to create a persona, so you just moved ahead with an ambiguous idea of who the consumer is. That's fine. Talk about it. Let's say because of some tech constraint, you couldn't make a particular UI component. Same, talk about it. You see, you should always aspire to tell the truth, and in a portfolio, you should package your truth with a narrative that works in your favor. I'll give you an example to prove it. And this example is something that I talked about in my UX Portfolio Masterclass as well. You can check it in the description. Let's say your PM forced you into designing something that you're not satisfied with. So first thing you need to do is try to understand, if not better UX, then what are they prioritizing, right? And if at all they don't give a logical answer, and what you find instead is just ego speaking, then you can always tell the recruiters or whoever asks you this question that the power dynamics between the design and the PM was not in your favor for you to then start a conflict, right? And then add a few reasons of how a conflict might cause more harm than good. Or maybe you just didn't know anything better at that time, so you can probably talk about that as well, which is completely fine. And if now you have a solution, then you can talk about how you could have done a better job, right? So now you can talk about, okay, I did X in the past, but now if you give me the same problem, then I will do Y, and then do a comparison between X and Y and say why Y is better, right? Also, if you don't have a solution, by the way, that is also fine. You can ask the interviewer if they have any suggestion to handle such situation if something like that happens in their company. You just need to package your truth and present your case. Hiring managers will understand your problem, because we all live in this real world, and this real world is full of imperfect people, so we can relate to that, right? Now see, we need to understand what our job is, right? Our job as UX designer is to navigate these constraints. You don't need to tell the recruiters that you did not face any constraint and you were allowed to get the most satisfactory output in your previous organization. We know most companies don't follow the end-to-end ideal design process that you find by doing a quick Google search, right? So when you tell me your previous org was super ideal, I as a recruiter think maybe this person won't like our way of designing because they might be expecting an ideal design process. So probably best thing is you be real. You talk about all the things that shaped the real design process that you carried out. And because of that, you will gain a lot of respect for coming out honest and navigating difficult situations. And if at all you feel you could have done much better without some of those constraints, and if you feel that the current final design that you are showing in your portfolio is not showcasing your strength, then go ahead and split the project into 2 versions. And this is a portfolio tip. First of all, you talk about version 1. That's the real design process, right? I'm not saying to fake anything. I'm saying you first show the real design process that you carried out to get the final design out. And then create a self-initiated project where you show how you could have done things differently if a certain constraints were lifted, right? So basically in your case study, you talk about V1, you end the product, and then you say, then I did a self-initiated project wherein I am saying that if this particular constraint is lifted, then I would be able to create or deliver this product, right? So basically showcasing your strength as well. I'll give you another example. You can say, as our tech becomes more mature in future and as the engineering constraint is lifted in future, we can add this particular UI elements to the design instead of what exists now. And then followed by that, you can probably talk about the pros and cons of this new design. So to summarize, you always show the real process and be proud of dealing with hard situations. And if required, along with the real process, add a self-initiated project to showcase what could be a new design if certain constraints were lifted.